Hey, hey, hey! Heads up, bitches. Welcome to another episode of Cut the Shit. I am Christian Tucker, giving you just another idiot's view of the world. I will be ranting and raving about this week's crap that has caught my attention for its stupidity or its uniqueness or its newsworthiness, or at least what I deem newsworthy anyways. As always, don't forget to catch us on the web at www.cuttheshitalready.com. There you will find links to hit to subscribe to our podcast. Also, you'll find a link to Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at PLZCutTheShit, as well as Facebook. You can go to www.facebook.com/cuttheshitalready/. Got something good to say or pass along? Do it at any of these locations. Got some putrid shit to spew my direction? Do it there also, dirtbag. We welcome it all. Okay, so let's get this shit going, shall we? Well, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Cut the Shit Podcast. This is episode 17. And today we're going to discuss shame and why I think it's good. And some psychiatrists agree with me. So let's get into it. So, recently I read this article on fat shaming. Honestly, I'm so sick of hearing about shaming as if it's a bad thing. Since when did shame become a bad thing? I grew up with shame. Everybody grew up with shame, right? Our kids, they shoot a dog with a BB gun. We get on them and shame them for doing it and explain why so they don't do it again. They need to feel shame for hurting that animal, right? They eat their boogers from their nose. Yes, boogers, B-O-O-G-E-R-S, boogers, right? They eat boogers from their nose. And we shame them so they don't do it again. You have company over. They masturbate in front of your company. We shame them so they don't do it again. They don't need to be going around masturbating in front of people, right? They need to feel some shame for doing something like that. So, I'm so sick of this, slut shaming and body shaming and anything someone doesn't want to be reminded of that may be bad that they do, they say, don't shame me. How about fuck you? You probably need to be shamed, especially if you're saying, don't shame me. Shame, it's not a bad thing. Here's the definition of shame. A painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. Having shame is being aware of doing something wrong. So if someone is a slut, what's wrong with calling them a slut? If it's the truth, right? If she's a virgin and we're calling her slut, then we got problems. And I can see her being offended by that. Again, if they don't like it, then they know it's wrong, but they choose to do it anyway. So if you're a slut and you like it, then fucking own it. But don't bitch about people calling you out. Have a better retort besides don't slut shame me. How about you fucking own that shit? Be like, fuck yeah, I'm a slut and I enjoy dick, motherfucker. What's it to you? Boom. End of fucking discussion, right? Embarrassment is a painful but important emotion. It makes us feel bad about our mistakes so that we don't repeat them. And one of its side effects is blushing. That signals to others that we recognize our error and are not cold-hearted or oblivious. Shame can be felt even when no one knows about a slip-up. Guilt tends to focus on what one has done rather than who one is. Ways we can experience shame. Shyness is shame in the presence of a stranger. Discouragement is shame about a temporary defeat. Embarrassment is shame in front of others. Self-consciousness is shame about performance. Inferiority is all-encompassing shame about the self. Let me read to you a little bit from an article from Jane Bolton. She's a psychiatrist. And I'm just going to read verbatim here so I don't fucking anything up, right? You've probably heard the phrase, what you feel, you can heal. We have learned much about what is needed to work through and release shame. Recognition of our feeling of shame is the first step to mastering our shame reactions. And mastering our shame enhances our zestiness. That's her putting that there, not me. So again, if you don't like being shamed, own it, okay? This is per Dr. Bella DePaulo, PhD. Number one, she says, don't hide. You need to affirm for people and perhaps for yourself who you are and what you stand for. And you need to show people that the crisis has not destroyed you. Again, it's kind of like I said before, fucking own it. Have your kids ever embarrassed you or shamed the family name? Parents can experience intense shame because of the behavior of their children. Since an ideal as a parent is that children will represent one's best efforts and merits, a child who fails to achieve desired goals or whose behavior is an embarrassment reflects negatively and evokes a shame response. Every parent in the world at one moment or another has been shamed by their kids for something they've done, okay? So there's nothing wrong with that. If your kid rapes someone, shouldn't you feel ashamed? Shouldn't they? Shame has been hijacked by psychiatrists who and their patients, turned into a taboo word and something that one should not be subjected to. I say fucking bullshit. Listen, I did stupid stuff as a kid and was shamed for it. And guess what? Yeah, I felt that momentary shame and embarrassment from it, but guess what? I learned from it. Therefore, I didn't do it anymore, right? Seems like a perfectly good tool to have in your bag of tricks for teaching kids, and yes, sometimes adults. Let's face it, raising kids isn't easy. Shame is a useful fucking tool. Let's just give an example here of something, right? An adult friend is making fun of an autistic kid in a wheelchair. Should you not shame that friend so that he doesn't do it again? Or did you just let that friend be an asshole? No, you shame them, tell them they're fucking wrong and why they're fucking wrong. Per Joseph Burgo, PhD, Psychology Today. Over the last 100 years, shame has gotten an increasingly bad name. But as it turns out, sometimes shame is beneficial. Did you hear that, assholes? Sometimes shame is beneficial. Let's move on. He continues, at the same time, however, shame is inevitable. In his 1872 survey of the emotional lives of humans, Darwin found that the expressions of shame were universal. In every one of the cultures and civilizations he surveyed worldwide, he found that people displayed shame in exactly the same way. Eyes downcast, gaze averted, slack of posture, head lowered, and confusion of mind. Modern affect theory, pioneered by Sylvan Tompkins, says that shame is one of the 9 innate, genetically predetermined affects, the biological components of emotion that spontaneously appear without experience-based learning. Shame does not need to be taught. It is in our genes. It is in our DNA. Why did our evolutionary history endow us with the capacity to feel shame? How does it help promote survival of the species? Human children are voracious explorers of their world, eager for interaction with others. But sometimes it's dangerous to be curious about an unknown situation or to engage with an unfamiliar person. Shame can interrupt the unbridled urge to explore and engage, instead imposing restraint or caution. Essentially, affect theory holds that shame acts as a brake, as a kind of circuit breaker for other positive effects like excitement, joy, or curiosity. I just saw a video today, guy at Chick-fil-A, he's using the toilet, and a little boy crawls underneath the stall to ask him if he could help him wash his hands. That kid does need to be shamed to keep from crawling into people's stalls because it could lead to some ugly shit, right? As the psychoanalyst Donald Nathanson describes it, the shame effect encoded in our genes is like the firmware on a computer. It's pre-written and immutable. The way parents activate and make use of shame in their child rearing practices could be analogous to the software with its myriad forms and applications. Some shaming is gentle and constructive. Simply saying the word no is a mild form of shame. Interruption of the positive effect, right? And most parents say it often. Continuing on with the article from that doctor, whenever I'm asked whether shame has any value, I often give the following rather extreme example. Would we really prefer that pedophiles feel no shame about their sexual attraction? They obviously take great interest in the bodies of young children and would enjoy making sexual contact with them. Wouldn't it be a good thing if shame imposed and enforced by society at large acted as a brake on those impulses? Seems kind of common sense, but common sense isn't around anymore, apparently. Per Jacob Nordby, properly understood, there are 3 good things about shame. Let's get into them. Shame is temporary. We get the ouch of it when we have ignored our inner truth and have done something hurtful, lazy, or dishonest. This isn't a permanent situation because shame helps us grow. We can quickly acknowledge our mistakes. We can, course correct and use it as fuel to propel us on our authentic path with more joy and efficiency. Shame is personal. When we allow others to impose their opinions on us or use shame to control us, we feel the internal lie. That's their truth, not ours. By getting clear on what is true for us, we will feel the sting of disappointment when we aren't walking our own talk. That is appropriate, but it isn't healthy to allow others to punish us when we simply aren't living by their standards. Proper use of shame might help us quit procrastinating, shred excuses, and make things happen in life. Found another article here by Cameron Harwitt. The crusade against shame is unfortunately also political. The battleground of culture wars has moved from legalization to destigmatization. The jump from there shouldn't be a law to there shouldn't be any social stigma is exactly as wrong and for the exact same reasons as the jump on the opposite side from I disagree with it to there ought to be a law. Don't enthrone the messenger, but don't shoot him either, Cameron says. Shame, for lack of a better word, is good, he continues. It's useful anyways. It allows us to coexist smoothly in society with others and impels us to self-improvement. The willingness to change one's habits and identity according to one's values, and not the other way around, is not merely a sign of maturity, it is maturity. The infantilizing preoccupation with authenticity and identity must break. I say must because neither individuals nor societies can long flourish without shame. So that's kind of the end of Cameron's statement there. There's a lot to kind of chew on, a lot of fat in that bad boy. Let's move on here to another doctor, Dr. David Kaiser. Shame indicates your vulnerabilities. He goes on, first, shame shows you what you believe about yourself and what your vulnerabilities are. We all have our weak spots, and when you think about it, wouldn't you rather be aware of them than not? So you may ask, how does this work? I'm glad you asked. So he gives a quote here. As Eleanor Roosevelt famously said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. That's a strange phone number. I'm just getting a call from him. 797-966, nothing else. Anyways, so nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. When you feel shame, you are subconsciously consenting to what was said about you. Sounds complicated, you say. Fair enough. Here's an example. If someone were to call me stupid, and this is the doctor talking, not me, it would roll right off my back. No part of me feels stupid. I have a PhD from the University of Chicago, and they don't just hand those out for free. I have full faith in my intellectual abilities. Now, when someone calls me ugly, I feel a flush of shame because when I was a kid, I felt ugly, and part of me still feels that way sometimes. So that indicates that I'm still carrying around that belief about myself buried in my subconscious. Again, that's the doctor, not me. I don't feel ugly. Continuing on. When someone insults you and you get upset, part of you believes that insult might be true. That's insight into what you believe about yourself, and it indicates what you might want to work on as personal growth. Lastly, the doctor continues on, shame is actually a backhanded compliment. You can only feel shame if you have a conscience and it's working. Maybe you do something stupid or cruel and you feel ashamed. That's great. That means you are a decent human being with a conscience. A psychopath doesn't feel shame, but you do, so you are a good person. Or at the very least, you're not a fucking psychopath. The fact that you feel bad about yourself is actually cause to feel good about yourself. Did you get that? We'll say that one again. How about that? The fact that you feel bad about yourself is actually cause to feel good about yourself. Shame also highlights what your values are because you only feel it when you violate your values. Also, when you feel shame, part of you knows you can do better. No one feels ashamed that they can't fly or breathe underwater because That's impossible. Nobody can do it. You may feel ashamed that you don't make more money, but that means that you already believe you could be making more money. Again, that's another backhanded compliment. So while shame may be quite painful in the moment, if you reflect on it and deconstruct it, you can actually find a lot to be proud of. I know, weird, right? But shame's useful. That's the gist of this, okay? So yes, I believe shame has a place in our society, and people should just stop being pussies about it. If someone is slut-shaming you, there's a reason for it. Look into it. And again, if you feel like, you want to own it, then fucking own it. Don't be a pussy about it. So what brought up shame? Well, this article about an engaged couple who cries because their photographer fat-shamed them, supposedly. So I'll read some of this to you. An Ohio couple is publicly accusing a wedding photographer of fat-shaming them after discovering that some of their engagement photos had been photoshopped without their consent to make them look skinnier. Oh, gosh. Okay. First, the photographer probably should have spoken to him about it. Say, hey, listen, you hired me to make you look good. Some of these pictures I'm going to touch up and stuff. Is that okay with you? They should have had a conversation, but they didn't. But at the same time, isn't that the photographer's job to make you look better? Again, maybe she should have asked permission to Photoshop some of the pictures, but you did hire her to take pictures of you and make you look at your best on your wedding day. So, after the engagement photo shoot, the couple, while reviewing the photos, the last name's Leopold, her and her fiance were surprised to find the photographer had taken it upon herself to alter photos to make the couple look much thinner than they actually are. And just side note, I'm glad it was a female photographer that did this, because if it was a male photographer that did this, it would have been a fucking shitstorm. The photographer, she went on, she actually photoshopped one picture of us skinnier. She probably took like 30 pounds off of each of us. Well, here, take a look at the picture. In reality, she probably could have taken another 30 pounds off of you, so don't bitch too much. The photographer, she claimed she photoshopped them because they were too big to get naturally looking poses. And one picture, she photoshopped out the woman's double chin. Most people would be thankful for that. But again, these people, they own their fatness. Great for them. But you know what? What the photographer did, it's not fat shaming, okay? She tried to make them look better, and the couple, again, owned their weight, and good for them. So then they asked that the pics not be photoshopped. And that really should have been the end of the fucking story, okay? The photographer did say it was hard to work with them because they were both morbidly obese. And looking at the one picture, I could see that to be true. Since when is espousing the truth shameful or wrong? That's a question, yes. I'm asking you that fucking question. Since when is espousing the truth shameful or wrong? It's not, so shut the fuck up. Go back to what I said earlier from the psychiatrist. If this couple felt fat shamed, it's because they know they are morbidly obese and they wish they did not look that way. So them yelling fat shaming is really more of a reflection on them than it is the photographer. So cut the shit, fat people. Sorry. After reading that article and going through this, it reminded me of an excerpt from the book The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. I don't know if you've ever read it or listened to it. But in it, there was an excerpt that says, the first thing you need to know is that if you focus on losing weight, you will attract back having to lose more weight. So get having to lose weight out of your mind. It's the very reason why diets don't work. Because you are focused on losing weight. You must attract back continually having to lose weight. It's a vicious cycle. I've been in that cycle myself, I know. I'm always trying to lose 10 to 15 pounds. That's all I have on my mind, and I never fucking lose it. So I need to stop thinking that way. Thank you, Rhonda. The second thing to know is that the condition of being overweight was created through your thought to it. To put it in the most basic terms, if someone is overweight, it came from thinking fat thoughts. Whether that person was aware of it or even if they were not. A person cannot think thin thoughts and be fat. It completely defies the law of attraction. Rhonda goes on and says, whether people have been told they have a slow thyroid, slow metabolism, or their body size is hereditary, these are all disguises for thinking fat thoughts. If you accept any of those conditions as applicable to you and you believe it, it must become your experience, i.e. your reality, and you will continue to attract being overweight. It then says, if you were eating and observing a fat person at the restaurant also eating, to look away from that person. Do not attract that into your life. You know, when I read that, I thought, wow, that's pretty fucking harsh. But the reality is, I don't like to watch fat people eat in public. I do look away, okay? Am I shallow? Maybe. Call me what the fuck you want. I'll live with it and accept it. So, listen, I'm just tired of everybody looking for ways to deflect criticism and justify the things they do so they're not held accountable for it or that they don't feel shame for it. So again, if some chick just gets up on TV, or a whole fucking parade of chicks I saw at one point, you know, there was the slut walk or the slut shame walk or fucking something. If you feel slut shamed, it's because you know you're acting like a fucking slut and you're being a fucking slut. And that's okay. I love fucking sluts. But if you're going to be one, then just fucking own it. And if somebody calls you out on it, don't, oh, you're slut shaming me, don't shame me. No, fuck you. If you're feeling shame about it, then you know you're probably not happy with the way you're handling your slut abilities or what the fuck ever. You know, if you're fat and somebody calls you fat, fucking own it. Yeah, I like fucking food. I don't mind being this size. Do you got a problem with it? You know, own it. Don't be, oh, he fucking fat shamed me. It's just fucking ridiculous. People need to stop, one, being so fucking sensitive. Two, stop being pussies. And number three, start taking accountability for your own fucking life. If you're fat, fucking own it. If you're a slut, fucking own it. If you're a fucking racist pig, fucking own it. Okay? If you're a pedophile, yeah, as the example above, you need to be shamed and probably in jail. At the very minimum, some type of therapy. Anyways, I can go on for a while, but I'm not. I'm going to cut you guys loose. Listen, thanks again for, you know, checking in and listening to Cut the Shit podcast, episode 17, I think is what we said it was. As always, go to www.cuttheshitalready.com. There you'll find videos and links and subscribe to the podcast and all that other good stuff. The videos are of these podcasts, and they're actually on YouTube as well. So you'll find all that information there. And as Ron Burgundy always says, stay classy. And until next time, guys, thanks.